The morning began quiet in the small town where Mira lived, a place known for calm streets and slow days, a place where nothing dramatic was expected to happen. Mira walked down the narrow road with her small backpack resting on one shoulder, and a gentle breeze moving through the trees. She carried herself with a peaceful presence, and most people who saw her felt a sense of comfort, because she always treated others with kindness. For years she lived in this quiet corner of the world, and no one knew about her past. No one knew what she once was, because Mira never talked about the life she left behind. She preferred silence, she preferred simple days, and she preferred staying overlooked. 2 officers were patrolling the street that morning. Their names were Tom and Reed, both new to the town. They came from a busy city, and carried a sharp attitude that did not match the slow nature of their new area. They wanted to appear confident, they wanted to show that they had full control over every situation, and they believed every person should obey without question. When they saw Mira walking alone, they made a quick judgment based on nothing more than their own impatience. They assumed she was someone they needed to question, and instead of speaking kindly, they approached with raised voices. Mira stopped walking when she heard them. She turned slowly, her face calm, her eyes steady. She had no fear, because fear was something she learned to leave behind years ago. Tom stepped closer, asking questions without reason, and without respect. Reed stood behind him with a rough tone, telling Mira to answer faster. Mira stayed polite, but she did not understand why they were acting this way. She knew she had done nothing wrong. She only wanted to finish her walk and return home, but the officers did not care about that. They felt they needed to show power, and they believed pushing someone around would help them feel important. Tom reached out to grab her arm without warning. Mira took a step back, refusing to let anyone handle her like that. She spoke with a gentle voice, asking them to stay calm, but the officers only became more annoyed. Reed moved forward, and before she could step aside, both men pushed her down onto the ground. The hit was not painful to her body, but the act itself felt unnecessary and unfair. A small crowd watched from a distance, unsure of what was happening. Many people recognized Mira and knew she was peaceful, yet they did not dare interfere because the officers looked tense and angry. As Mira sat on the ground, she lowered her head for a moment, not because she felt weak, but because she did not want to react on instinct. Her past began to rise inside her, along with memories of long years of intense training, lessons about balance, focus, and patience. She once belonged to a hidden circle of fighters who protected people in silence. They were never known to the world, and they never sought recognition. Their strength was unmatched, their discipline strict, and their skills beyond what normal people believed possible. Mira was one of the best among them, but she left that life behind because she wanted peace. She made a promise to herself never to use her skill unless it was truly needed. Now she sat on the ground with dirt on her hands, watching 2 officers stand above her with anger in their eyes. They expected fear, they expected her to beg or run, or break down. Mira instead rose to her feet with the calmest expression anyone had ever seen. Her movement was slow but steady, and something about her posture made the air around her feel different. Reed felt at first a strange pressure, like the presence of someone far stronger than she appeared. Tom felt unsure as well, but his pride pushed him to ignore the feeling. They reached for her again, believing she was weak. Mira stepped back gently, her feet moving with silent precision. She did not want to harm them, but she knew they would not stop unless she defended herself. Tom grabbed for her arm again, and in that instant Mira shifted her weight, lowered her stance, and moved with a speed that shocked everyone watching. She guided his arm away with a simple motion, a motion so smooth that it almost looked like the wind had done it. Tom stumbled, trying to keep his balance. Reed rushed toward her, thinking he could overpower her with force. Mira reacted without effort, her body flowing the same way it once did in her training days. She turned to the side, placed her hand lightly on his shoulder, and used his own momentum to send him off balance. He fell to one knee, surprised, confused, unable to understand how she moved so quickly, and with such perfect control. Tom tried again, but Mira stepped aside and guided him down gently, this time choosing not to harm him because she did not wish to cause injury. She only wanted them to stop. A quiet murmur spread through the crowd as people watched the scene unfold. Mira stood with a steady breath, her posture strong yet peaceful. She did not raise her voice, she did not shout. She only said in a soft tone that she did not want trouble, and she wanted them to stop acting unfairly. Her words carried more power than any heavy tone because they came from someone who clearly had nothing to prove, someone who could defend herself with incredible skill yet chose restraint. Tom and Reed were stunned. They looked at her with disbelief, as if finally realizing she was not an ordinary woman. The confidence they carried earlier began to fade, replaced by uncertainty. Reed tried to stand again, but the memory of her movement filled him with hesitation. Tom felt his pride weaken under the weight of confusion and embarrassment. He had never met anyone like her. The crowd remained silent, unsure what would happen next. Mira took a small step back, letting the tension ease from her body. She wanted to walk away, but she also knew the officers might still react from anger. Mira stayed alert, calm, ready to act if she needed to. She hoped they would choose peace. She hoped they would see reason. In that moment, the people watching began to understand something greater. Mira was not just someone from their quiet town. She was someone with a hidden past, someone who carried deep skill and deep discipline, someone who never wanted to harm anyone but could defend herself with unmatched precision if necessary. And for the first time in years, Mira felt the old world inside her stir again, not out of desire, but out of duty, because she knew this moment was only the beginning of something larger that she could not yet see. Mira stayed still for a moment. After the tense encounter, the air around her filled with quiet uncertainty. The crowd kept watching, unsure if the situation had ended, or if it would turn into something bigger. Mira did not want anyone to feel afraid, so she slowly lifted her hands to show she did not wish to continue any conflict. Her calm nature made people relax, but Tom and Reed did not know how to process what had happened. Their pride felt shaken, and their confidence felt unsteady. They came from a world where strength was measured by loud voices and force, but Mira showed them something different, a strength rooted in discipline, focus, and balance. Reed pushed himself up with effort, his knee still shaking from the fall. His face held a mix of confusion and frustration. He had never been pushed aside so easily. Mira did not even look like someone who trained in any fighting style. She looked gentle, almost delicate. The idea that she could move with such skill confused him. Tom stood beside him with tight shoulders and a tense jaw. He felt embarrassed in front of the watching crowd. He felt as if the world had turned upside down, and he could not find a way to make sense of it. Mira took a slow breath and spoke with a soft tone, telling them she wanted to go home, and she did not want any trouble. Her voice remained steady, without fear or anger. She hoped they would accept this and allow her to walk away. Reed stepped forward again, but this time with hesitation. He asked her how she moved like that, trying to hide the shake in his voice. Mira did not answer, because explaining her past was not something she wanted to do in the street. She only said she learned long ago how to protect herself, and she wished to stay peaceful. Tom felt his pride react strongly to her calmness, and instead of listening, he believed she was refusing to respect their authority. He stepped closer again, but before he could speak, the police supervisor arrived on the scene. Her name was Lena. She was older, calmer, and known for her fairness. She looked at Tom and Reed with a serious expression, then turned her eyes toward Mira. The crowd quickly explained what happened, and Lena listened without rushing to judgment. She could see Mira standing without anger and with complete composure, while Tom and Reed looked unsettled. Lena approached Mira with a respectful tone, asking if she was hurt. Mira shook her head politely. Lena then asked Tom and Reed to step aside. Her eyes held disappointment, a silent message that their behavior was not acceptable. The two officers lowered their heads, slightly unsure how to respond. Lena guided Mira away from the center of the road and asked if she wanted to file a complaint. Mira quietly said no, because she did not want trouble for anyone. She only wanted peace. Lena understood, but she also knew something important had happened, something that would cause whispers in the town, something that needed deeper attention. Mira thanked her and began to walk home. The crowd slowly dispersed, but their thoughts kept circling around what they saw. Some believed Mira was hiding a secret past, some believed she came from a special training school, others simply admired how she stayed calm when many would have lost control. Mira walked with a steady pace, but inside her heart she felt a familiar unease. She tried to bury her past for years, but she knew moments like this could reveal pieces she wished to forget. At home, Mira sat near her small window watching sunlight move across the floor. She remembered the old temple where she once trained high in the mountains with a group known only to a few. They were protectors who lived away from the world, learning silent movements and deep focus. Their purpose was to defend those who could not defend themselves. But Mira wanted a different life. She wanted freedom from endless responsibility and endless conflict. That was why she left, but even now the lessons lived within her. The discipline, the balance, the instinct to protect, all of it remained part of her soul. Later that afternoon, Lena visited Mira at her home. She knocked gently and waited. Mira opened the door with a calm expression. Lena stepped inside and spoke kindly. She said she wanted to understand what happened fully, not to accuse Mira, but to gather the truth, because the town trusted Mira and needed to maintain peace. Mira sat with her and explained the moment as simply as possible. She said she did not want any fight. She only reacted because she was pushed and felt unsafe. Lena listened carefully, noticing the steady tone in her voice. Lena then asked a quiet question. She asked if Mira had training. Mira did not lie. She said yes, but she did not share details. She only said she learned long ago how to defend herself. Lena respected her privacy and did not push for more information, but she felt something deeper. Mira was not just trained, she was trained in a way that very few people ever reached. Lena thanked her and promised she would manage the issue with Tom and Reed so it would not trouble her again. When Lena left, Mira felt a small wave of relief, but she also sensed the beginning of something she did not expect. The world she left behind had a way of pulling her back whenever she used her skill. The temple masters always said that true strength cannot remain hidden forever, it reveals itself when needed, and now Mira feared her actions would draw attention not just in the town but from those who once knew her. Meanwhile, Tom and Reed sat in the police station feeling uneasy. They talked about the incident, trying to understand how someone so quiet could move with such skill. Reed felt a strange respect forming inside him while Tom struggled with his pride. Lena met with them and explained their behavior was unacceptable. She told them they must learn control and avoid acting from impulse. She also told them to leave Mira alone unless she asked for help. Tom wanted to argue, but Lena's firm tone left no room for disagreement. Days passed and news of the event spread through the town. People talked about Mira with curiosity. Some believed she was once a guard or a body trainer. Some believed she belonged to a faraway group known for discipline and rare skill. Mira tried to ignore the attention, but everywhere she went people whispered softly, wondering who she truly was. One evening while Mira walked toward the small park, she felt a presence watching her. She turned slowly and saw a young man standing near a tree. His posture was straight and his expression calm. He had the look of someone familiar with training. Mira recognized the stance immediately. It belonged to someone from her past. Her breath grew quiet as she studied him. The young man stepped forward with a respectful bow. He told her he had been searching for her. He said the masters believed the world might need her again. Mira felt her heart grow heavy. She had hoped her past would never return. She asked him why they sent him and what danger was rising. He said he did not know the details, only that a sign had appeared in the mountains and the elders believed Mira was needed once more. Mira looked toward the fading sunset, feeling a mixture of peace and worry. She knew her calm life might not last much longer. Something was coming, something she had hoped to avoid, and she sensed this was only the beginning. Mira stood in the warm evening light with the young visitor waiting patiently in front of her. His presence felt like a whisper from a distant world, a world she once knew very well yet tried for years to forget. His calm breathing and steady posture reminded her of early mornings at the mountain temple where students woke before sunrise to begin their training. The memory brought a soft ache to her chest, a reminder of the life she left behind for peace and quiet. The young man introduced himself as Lien, a student from the new generation at the temple. He said he had spent weeks searching for her, following long routes through valleys and towns until he finally reached this quiet place. Mira invited him to walk with her through the park so they could talk away from curious eyes. They moved together in silence, at first Mira walking with soft steps while Lien kept a respectful distance behind her. The sky above them slowly turned golden, and the shadows grew long. Mira felt the peaceful air of the town, but inside her heart the calm began to fade. She asked Lien why the elders believed she was needed again. He explained with a gentle voice that a sign appeared in the sacred hall where the masters kept old knowledge. A pattern of light formed on the stone floor, something that had not appeared for many years. According to old teachings, such a sign meant a challenge would approach, not for the temple alone, but for the world beyond. Mira listened carefully, though she kept her eyes forward. She asked if the elders sent others before him, but Lien said no. He said the sign did not call a group, it called a person. Her name was spoken by the elders with respect and hope. They believed Mira carried a special balance, a rare strength of spirit and discipline. Mira felt the weight of those words settle on her shoulders. She thought she had left all of that behind forever, but destiny seemed to pull her back gently yet firmly. They reached a quiet part of the park where a small fountain stood. Mira stopped and sat on a stone bench. Lien stood nearby waiting for her to speak. She asked him how much he knew of her past. He said the elders spoke of her with deep admiration. They said she trained with unmatched dedication. They said she carried a heart that never sought recognition. They also said she left because she wanted a life without endless burdens. Mira looked to the ground, her fingers brushing across the smooth surface of the bench. She told Lien she left because she believed peace could be found only by stepping away from conflict. She wanted simple days, calm nights, and the freedom to walk without the weight of duty. Lien nodded respectfully, but he said the world sometimes chooses people even when they do not choose the world. His words were soft, but they touched something inside Mira. She realized that escaping responsibility was never her true desire. She only wanted to rest. She only wanted time for herself, but deep down she always knew that if a real need appeared she would be unable to look away. As they spoke, Mira noticed someone watching them near the park entrance. It was Reed, one of the officers from the earlier incident. He looked hesitant, not angry. Reed walked toward them slowly. Mira raised her head with calm interest. Reed greeted them quietly, then said he wanted to talk to her. He apologized for how he acted before. He said he misunderstood her and let his pride cloud his judgment. Mira accepted his apology with a gentle nod. She never held anger toward him. She only wished he would learn something from the experience. Reed then asked if Lien was troubling her, but Mira said Lien was an old friend. Reed did not fully believe it, but he respected her answer. He looked at Lien with a curious gaze, sensing something unusual about him, though he did not understand what. Reed left after wishing Mira a peaceful evening. Lien watched him walk away, then asked Mira if she trusted the officers. Mira said she trusted people who showed growth, and Reed seemed sincere. Lien respected her viewpoint, though he still felt cautious, because he came from a world where discipline and clarity were taught above all else. Night slowly settled in and stars began to appear. Mira started walking home, and Lien followed her. Home felt warm and small compared to the wide halls of the temple. Lien looked around with quiet wonder, admiring the simplicity. Mira made tea for them, and they sat across from each other at a wooden table. Lien explained that the elders believed there was someone searching for Mira, not from the town, not from the country, but from somewhere distant. The temple watchers observed movements of strangers near the mountains and believed they might be looking for Mira. Mira felt a small chill across her shoulders. She asked if these strangers carried harmful intentions. Lien said the elders were unsure, but they believed the strangers sought someone with rare skill. Mira realized her peaceful life might be caught between her past and an unknown future. Lien said he wanted to stay near her to protect her, and also to learn from her, because the elders said Mira carried wisdom even the young generation had not reached. Mira appreciated his sincerity, but she worried Lien might draw attention by staying with her, yet she understood he felt responsible and loyal. She told him he could stay in the guest room until morning, and they would decide their next steps later. Lien bowed respectfully, and agreed. When Mira lay on her bed, she stared at the ceiling, thinking about the calm life she might soon lose. She wondered if the sign at the temple meant she would have to face someone from her past or someone entirely unknown. The next morning Mira woke early, and found Lien already outside practicing silent movements on the small patch of grass behind her home. His balance, his focus, and his slow controlled gestures reminded her of her own training days. She watched him for a moment, then joined him. Lien bowed deeply as she approached. She corrected his stance with a light gesture, then guided him through a sequence that she had not performed for many years, yet her body remembered every motion perfectly. While they trained, Mira sensed another presence nearby. She turned and saw Lena, the police supervisor, standing at the edge of the yard. Lena apologized for interrupting, but she said something important happened. Tom had gone missing overnight. He left no message. His patrol vehicle was found empty on a quiet road near the old forest. Lena asked Mira if she noticed anything strange recently. Mira exchanged a glance with Lien, who stood silent. Lena added that people near the forest claimed they saw unfamiliar figures moving through the trees at night. Mira understood immediately that the peaceful life she built was slipping away. The signs, the strangers, the sudden disappearance, everything pointed toward a growing threat. Lien stepped closer, his face serious. Mira looked at Lena calmly, and said she would help if needed. Lena felt relief, though she did not know the true depth of Mira's skill. Mira then turned her gaze toward the forest, feeling a faint pull in her spirit, something calling her, something that told her the path ahead would reveal the truth she tried to avoid, and she knew this was only the beginning of a larger challenge waiting in the shadows. Mira felt the weight of the moment settle on her shoulders as she looked toward the dark line of trees in the distance. The forest stood quiet, but that quiet carried a strange presence, as if the air itself waited for something to happen. Lena stood near the small fence watching Mira with a hopeful expression. She trusted Mira, even without knowing her full past. Something in Mira's calm and steady nature made Lena believe she could help uncover the truth about Tom's disappearance. Mira turned toward Lien, who remained still beside her. His eyes held focus and readiness, the kind she knew well from their training days. Mira asked Lena what time Tom was last seen. Lena said he finished his evening patrol, and reported nothing unusual before his signal disappeared near the old forest road. When officers went to look for him, they found his car empty, the doors were locked, and there were no signs of a struggle, but the nearby ground had light footprints, none matching Tom's size or the size of anyone known in the area. Mira listened closely, and every detail confirmed her suspicion. The strangers the elders mentioned had reached the town. She told Lena she would search the forest with Lien. Lena looked worried, but she trusted Mira's decision. She asked if they needed backup. Mira said no, because too many people could scare the strangers into hiding and might put more lives at risk. Lena agreed reluctantly, and handed Mira a small flashlight. Before leaving, Mira placed it inside her pocket, though she knew she probably would not need it. She and Lien prepared quietly. Mira tied her hair back and Lien wrapped cloth around his wrists, a habit taught at the temple before facing an uncertain challenge. They began walking toward the forest, the ground soft under their feet. The town grew quieter behind them as they approached the line of trees and stepped into the shade. The air inside the forest felt different, heavy, and still. Lien walked slightly behind her, watching for movement, while Mira studied the ground and the patterns of broken leaves. Her senses sharpened in the way they once did during high-level training. She could hear the flutter of distant wings, the rustle of branches, and even the small shift of weight from animals hiding in the shadows, yet beneath all natural sounds she felt something unnatural, a presence moving with intention. They followed the old road and soon reached the place where Tom's vehicle had been found. Mira examined the ground carefully. She noticed faint marks, not exactly footprints, but signs of careful movement, as if someone knew how to hide their trace. Lien recognized the pattern as well. It was a style used by trained scouts in remote regions. Mira felt her chest tighten. These strangers were not ordinary travelers, they came with purpose. As they walked deeper into the forest, the trees grew closer together, and the light dimmed. Mira stopped suddenly, raising her hand. Lien halted behind her. She pointed toward a cluster of broken twigs and disturbed soil. It was a sign someone heavier had been dragged or guided through this path. They followed it until Mira heard something faint, a soft echo like a muffled breath. She motioned for Lien to stay low, and they moved silently through the brush. Ahead they found Tom sitting on the ground tied with rope, but unharmed. His eyes widened with relief when he saw them. Mira hurried toward him and checked his condition. Tom said 2 figures captured him last night. Before he could react, he said they did not hurt him, they only wanted to know where Mira lived. They kept saying they needed her to come with them. Mira felt the familiar heaviness in her heart. She asked Tom where the strangers went. He pointed deeper into the woods, saying they left a short while ago, but mentioned they would return soon. Mira untied him and told him to return to the road where Lena would be searching for him soon. Tom hesitated, wanting to warn her about the danger, but Mira smiled softly and said she would handle it. Tom trusted her now and hurried away. Lien stepped closer, asking what they should do next. Mira said they needed to wait because the strangers would come back. The forest suddenly felt colder as they stood in silence. Minutes passed, then the air shifted. Mira sensed movement before she saw anything. Lien stepped into a defensive stance. 2 figures appeared through the trees, moving with precise steps. They wore simple dark clothing and carried no visible weapons, but their posture and calm expressions revealed training. Mira recognized the style. They belonged to a separate sect, not connected to her temple, but known to the elders, a group that lived hidden across distant mountains. They trained in silence and traveled rarely, which made their presence here even more alarming. The 2 strangers stopped a short distance away, observing Mira with focused eyes. The older one stepped forward and spoke with a respectful tone, addressing her by name. He said they had searched for her because she carried knowledge that belonged to the old world, not the peaceful life she now lived. Mira asked why they came here instead of sending a message. The man said the situation was too urgent for messages. Their sect saw the same sign the temple saw and believed Mira was the one chosen to resolve the coming challenge. Mira asked what challenge they meant. The younger stranger stepped forward, explaining that an ancient teaching had reappeared in an abandoned valley, a teaching that required the presence of someone who carried perfect balance. They believed Mira possessed that balance because of something she learned long ago, something very few had ever mastered. Mira felt her heartbeat slow. Her mind returned to old lessons, words spoken by her master about a hidden path, a skill passed only to those who understood true restraint. She never claimed mastery over it, but the strangers believed she held the closest connection to it. Mira asked why they forced Tom into the forest. The older stranger bowed slightly and apologized, saying they only wanted to protect Myra's location until they could speak with her privately. They did not intend harm. Lien watched them with careful eyes, unsure whether to trust them. The strangers looked at him with recognition and slight surprise. They said they expected Mira, but did not expect a student of her temple to accompany her. Mira stepped between Lien and the strangers, asking again what they wanted from her. The older man said they needed her to travel with them to the hidden valley to witness the sign and determine if she was ready to complete the teaching. Mira felt the pull of responsibility tug at her spirit. She had hoped her life would remain simple, but she knew now that destiny had called her from multiple directions. The temple elders believed she was needed. The strangers believed she was chosen, and deep inside, she sensed a quiet truth that she had always known. One day, her peace would be tested. Lien placed a hand on her shoulder, telling her she did not need to go alone. Mira nodded. She looked at the strangers and said she would decide soon, but first she wanted to understand the nature of the challenge. They offered to show her a safe camp deeper in the forest where they kept old scrolls explaining the teaching. They said she could read them and choose her path. Mira agreed, but told them they must earn her trust before she followed them anywhere. They bowed respectfully and began walking toward the deeper forest. Mira and Lien followed at a safe distance. The forest darkened as they moved. The path felt ancient, as if countless stories had been buried beneath the soil. Mira felt her past rising again, a quiet voice inside reminding her of strength, patience, and purpose. She realized this journey was not just about her, it was about protecting the balance she once trained to uphold. As they reached the hidden camp, Mira looked at the gathered scrolls and silent fires. She knew her path forward would not be easy, but she also knew she could not turn away. Something far greater waited in the shadows, and she would face it with calm strength, just as she always had.